Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mama Wears Athleisure. I am your host, Mariela de Santiago, a first-time mom. We focus on all things mom with tips to help make life easier and more organized for all you mamas out there. Hi, everyone. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about postpartum exercise and how to get started with all of that. We have Carly.
Thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be here. My name is Carly Kennedy, and I am a mom of two, a fitness professional, and the creator of the Fit Mom Method. So I help busy moms strip the overwhelm and move fearlessly throughout pregnancy, rebuild their core postpartum, and thrive in motherhood through quick and effective workouts so that they can feel confident, strong, and empowered. I have been a fitness instructor for over 15 years, but it wasn't until I got pregnant and realized I wanted to learn more about the pregnant body and postpartum recovery and help women in that stage of life and throughout their motherhood journeys. That is when I got certified as a prenatal and postnatal corrective exercise specialist, as well as a diastasis recti and core consultant, so that I could take even all the knowledge that I had before with all of this new knowledge and create these functional movements and the workouts that are safe, effective, with a science-based approach to help you move throughout your motherhood journey.
I love that you mentioned that you decided to go into this part of the fitness industry once you became pregnant, because you don't really think about how different it is to work out when you are pregnant and postpartum, especially the postpartum piece. I myself, when I was pregnant, totally thought that it was like, okay, you have, your 6 weeks, you have to wait until you're cleared, and then you can just jump back into what you were doing while you were pregnant or before. And that is so not the case. Let's just go ahead and just talk about, when can a mama begin to work out postpartum? By the way, real world mom over here. I have my son with me, so you'll be hearing some baby sounds in the background.
So I completely agree with you. As moms, we are not given very much information during pregnancy or postpartum. We're kind of told to wait till our 6 or 8 week clearance from our doctor and just kind of are set free into the wild of, figuring it out. And there are a lot of things that we should know about before we just jump back into working out. And there's just a lot of things that I feel like we aren't told when we are pregnant about the postpartum recovery time. And if we equip ourselves when we're pregnant, or if maybe you're in this stage right now and you're listening to this holding a newborn baby, you are not too late. You, in no time like the present, but like something I like to say is you are postpartum forever. Even if it's been years and you haven't taken the steps to rebuild your strength after having a baby, or you can begin to rebuild your strength and find that confidence again through movement as a mom. One of the things that you want to think about when you are starting to work out postpartum is, first and foremost, we want to make sure that you had a birth without any complication. And also at this point that you are not experiencing any more serious symptoms, such as abdominal pain or vaginal pain, bleeding, pelvic organ prolapse. There's some things that we can be experiencing, especially in that early postpartum time, that we want to kind of see as a bit of a red flag. We just want to take maybe a few extra steps before we get back into those movement patterns. One thing that I always like to tell mamas is go see a pelvic floor physical therapist. One of those things, I didn't even know about pelvic floor PT before having a baby. Nobody tells you about it. And it's one of those things, I'm sure any pelvic floor PT hearing this right now is like, I know we're preaching this, but they want it to be a part of that postpartum recovery piece. But take it upon yourself right now to look up a pelvic PT in your area. And I would highly recommend equipping yourself with a pelvic floor PT, and also equipping yourself with a postnatal fitness trainer to help you throughout this journey. I kind of have like these 4 steps I like to say, or like the 4 R's when it comes to postpartum recovery. Again, if we're at this point, early postpartum, no complications, whatever stage you're in, we want to make sure that we are resting. Resting is going to be so important. You just had a baby. right? You are tired. You're going through so many changes in your body, physically, mentally, emotionally. Have a little grace. Let's just make sure that we are taking things slow and not just trying to rush things, because you have the rest of your life to get back to, just getting back to working out. So enjoy these first few weeks with that newborn. Take some time to breathe and to rest. That next R is all about reconnecting with your core, your pelvic floor, utilizing breath work to do so, and also starting to add in some mobility and some stretching. So there are things we can do right when baby comes. You can do some of these things to begin the healing process before you have that 6 or 8 week checkup. So much of that is really breath work, connecting with your deep core muscles, reconnecting with your pelvic floor, and starting to move your body. Our alignment is all out of whack. You just carried a human inside of you, right? And so even all that pressure that the baby had on your body while you were growing the baby, through your alignment, your posture out of whack. We want to breathe, reconnect, start moving our body in very simple ways and stretching as we're starting those building layers. Then we want to start to rebuild those foundational movement patterns, keeping things slow and simple to start. And it's always progressive. We want to take the proper steps so that we are doing things safe and that we are doing things effectively, because it is possible to injure yourself after you've had the baby. You still have all this relaxin in your body. So it's allowing the muscles to kind of move and ligaments to expand and everything, especially if you are breastfeeding. After that, that's when we really start re-entering fitness. All of that said, you can start doing a lot of this early postpartum when you're ready. Once you feel like you've gotten a little bit of rest and you want to move your body.
I feel like you made so many great points there. First of all, yes, we're just let loose, thrown into the wild. Like, yeah, you're all clear to work out. And I feel like I'm not alone when I say this, that for me, I was like, okay, I can get back to running, to lifting. You just had 6 to 8 weeks off and you literally had a baby come out of you. You can't do that, but nobody tells you how to ease back into it. Also, love that you mentioned the pelvic floor therapist, because I didn't learn about a pelvic floor therapist until I started this podcast. And now I'm learning about all of the great supports that they can provide you, not only postpartum, but during your pregnancy, which is really wild that we don't hear about that or learn about that in the medical field. Like, yes, I get many of them aren't covered by insurance, but to not even be given that option to look into it on your own is so bizarre.
Then you really have to advocate for yourself with your doctor if you even want to get that referral.
You don't learn that you shouldn't jump into all of these core exercises and start doing planks and burpees and any other core exercise that you can possibly think of. Can you elaborate a little bit more on the abs and how to build up that strength, and maybe even like why you should ease into this part of an exercise?
Your core is your foundation to everything that we do. And if things aren't done right, it's like a domino effect of everything kind of like trickling down. And so we always want to start with the core, and we always want to start with the basics. There are certain things that people are going to tell you to avoid at first postpartum. I don't like to necessarily get into a list of like, don't do this, do this, because it is going to vary on every body. There are things that you just probably shouldn't just jump right into postpartum. So yes, you're probably not going to just start doing your standard crunch that we think of when we think of crunches, where that spinal flexion right away. Planks are hard, and especially if you're doing them correctly, they are very hard. You're not just jumping back into a plank. A plank, though, that is a foundational part to many other things that we do. The plank is your foundation to a push-up, to your chaturanga in a yoga class. If I'm telling you, oh, don't do planks, and you're thinking just that plank movement, well, also what's happening if you just go and jump into a yoga class, you're probably moving through high plank. And have you actually taken the time to rebuild the core strength to hold that position properly? It's not to say you can't do it, but we want to layer on. So for a plank, so you're going to start maybe with a wall plank. Once you build that core strength to hold the wall plank, then you're going to move down to a bench, hold your plank on the bench. Then eventually we're going to come down onto the ground. You'll be on your knees, and then eventually we'll lift the knees up off the ground. So it is taking those progressions so that you can have the proper core engagement in your high plank when you start doing your burpees that I know you love so much. It's really about going back to the basic, progressively adding things on. And when we go back to the basics of our core strength, it's coming into your breath work, your alignment, activating those deep core muscles and your pelvic floor. A lot of us postpartum are wanting that quick fix, right? I want my core strength back. I want to be able to do all my exercises again. I want to go do my classes, but it's important that you take the time to actually build that foundational strength back up so that you can enjoy all that movement. We may start off a little slow. We may start off a bit simple, but it is going to be the right thing to do because it is going to set you up for success down the road. So working on that diaphragmatic breath, working on activating your transverse abdominis muscles. So those muscles wrap from your back all the way to your midline, taking that big inhale and really allowing the rib cage to expand. This is what we like to call the 360 core breath. So big inhales down into your rib cage where you're allowing the rib cage to expand. And then on that exhale, where you're wrapping, you want to think about wrapping those deep core muscles towards the midline. And we want us to start working on that. And then we start layering in, contracting and releasing the pelvic floor, and then utilizing that breath pattern with the exercises that we're going to do. Simple yet effective that will absolutely rebuild your core strength.
I feel like you already kind of answered part of my next question, but before I ask you this, I kind of just want to mention how I feel like now, once you become a parent, our world of what an exercise entails and our expectation should definitely change. Like my expectation was always an hour of a minimum uninterrupted workout, right? If I can do anything uninterrupted, that would be amazing. But now it's more of like a 20-minute workout. And with that, my walks, going around the neighborhood, going to the park, that is also, I count that as a workout because I am doing a lot more walking. So my question is, what are some good exercises to start when you begin to work out postpartum? And I know that you mentioned kind of going through the progression, which I love that you mentioned just that progressive stage of the example of a plank. But what are some other easy moves so that we're not having this crazy expectation that we need to be ready to train for a half marathon, essentially, which
Absolutely.
You will need to because you're going to have a toddler. But
yeah, exactly. You're training for a different type of marathon. And you really are, because mom life is a workout in itself. And I think you hit the nail on the head right there, saying that as a mom, you kind of start to shift your perspective a bit on what I guess counts as a workout, right? What actually checks that box for you for the day. And it's starting off simple. It's taking things back a notch and really kind of shifting your mindset and having grace, because there are so many ways we can move our body. And by moving our body, we can build strength and we can build confidence, right? You don't have to do a 60-minute workout in order to check the box. There are many things you can do. There's certain things that you could in the early postpartum period before you're at maybe that 6-8 week mark, like we kind of spoke about. Like I said, you're postpartum forever, but let's really think about that first year postpartum, because that's where your body is having the most changes. That's when you're having so many physical, mental, and emotional changes going on. So first and foremost, have some grace, and we got to shift the mindset, and we're going to start small. We're going to take it baby steps at a time and start to layer on there so that we can have that consistency as we begin to have maybe a little extra time. We already spoke about breathing. Moving on from there, stroller walks. I love a good stroller walk. A stroller walk is a fantastic workout, especially if you live somewhere with hills. I mean, it will be a workout. You're pushing not only maybe a 40-pound stroller, but then a baby, maybe even 2 babies in there. Walking is so good for your body. Great mental time to just also clear your head a little bit, maybe listen to some music, listen to a podcast. Getting that vitamin D, some outside fresh air, and a walk is a fantastic place to start. Starting to add in those simple movements. So like beginning to bring more mobility back in. So in my postpartum recovery program, we do start with that reconnection, those foundational movements, but really then starting to add in some body weight exercises, maybe some squats, some lunges, some slow yoga flows, just to really start to move the body, some Pilates-based exercises. From there, we want to start to layer on maybe a little bit more resistance and stability, adding in some some maybe lighter dumbbells. We're not just jumping to the 20. We're going to start again with everything we do. We're progressing. You're going to go from a body weight squat, eventually to maybe a lightweight with your squat, then to maybe your 10 or 15 pound dumbbells. We're going to get there someday, but we got to do the foundations. And then of course, we're going to get back to the endurance and the dynamic movement like plyometrics, but that's going to come down the road a little bit. I would say some of my favorite exercises as you are postpartum, going to be heel slides, little toe taps while you're utilizing that 360 core breath that we spoke about. Body weight squats are fantastic to start to really rebuild your glute strength. Stretching, it is always overlooked, but stretch. You are going to feel so much better. Your body is tight. You're hunched over. Let's work on opening everything up and really start to lengthen your muscles again.
I love all of those that you mentioned. And just when you were talking about the hills and pushing a stroller just totally made me think like you are also doing a lot of strength because you're having to push a heavy stroller or hold it back, right?
It is. And you know what, one thing that I would do sometimes when I was pushing my stroller, every time I got to the corner and I had to wait for the cars to go to cross the street. Okay, I'm going to stand there and I'm going to do 10 squats holding on to my stroller. Or a lot of times I would even like walk my kids to a close little park. And then I would do one of my short bar workouts where I'm holding onto my stroller as my bar and getting in some bar exercises. With everything that I do with the Fit Mom method, I try to keep these exercises, these workouts short and fun, quick and effective so that you can do a workout. You can sneak it in during nap time, right? Like you don't have to have that 60-minute workout to check the box. You can get an effective workout in 20 minutes from the comfort of your own home. You don't have to find a babysitter and you're going to feel good and confident at the end of the day.
So true. I work out from home and I love just being able to do it when it's convenient for me. And sometimes I include him in it. Sometimes if it's something where I can't pay attention to him, if I'm using the treadmill or something like that, then I do it during his nap time. But my workouts, again, they're only like 20 minutes if I'm lucky. I can push it to 30 minutes sometimes, but that's knowing that I'm probably going to get interrupted.
It is that like 25 minute mark is such the sweet spot these days.
And I know that you mentioned that you don't like to put things in what you can and what you can't do, but I am going to ask you, what are maybe some exercises to avoid at first? So right after you are cleared to work out.
At first, you are going to want to avoid the crunches like we spoke about, just your standard crunches. Your core is probably not ready for that yet. You want to make sure that you aren't having any issues with your core, that you have the proper engagement when you are doing any kind of core movement. And a standard crunch, you're just probably not ready for it yet. And that's okay. You have the tools to build those foundations to get there. Same thing for planks, things like plyometrics, like a jump squat. If you haven't taken the time to rebuild the strength of just doing a standard squat, you're not going to probably be ready to be jumping up and down. You want to make sure not only do you have that proper core engagement, proper pelvic floor engagement. So people laugh about it, about peeing your pants when you jump or cough as a mom.
Pelvic floor therapist.
Exactly. And you don't have to live that way really early on postpartum. Your body's probably just not ready for that. And when we talk about, doing a jump squat or skaters or any kind of those plyometrics, then let's also talk about running. Your body is probably not ready for that type of high impact. You do want to take all the proper progressions to get back to running, to get back to that. Let's start walking instead and doing all the other foundational movement to rebuild your strength so that you can get there. But I think a lot of pelvic floor PTs say running is usually more so around like 6 to 8 months postpartum that you should be beginning that. And that's not just like, oh, you didn't do anything for 6 to 8 months and now you can start running. Your body doesn't a lot of things do go back to its own and heal on their own, but you also have to put in some of the work itself. Just because you're cleared to work out at 6 to 8 weeks doesn't mean you just jump back into everything that you've done before. You have to take the steps to properly get there first.
Do you have any other tips, suggestions, or recommendations on anyone that is about to start navigating this stage in their life and begin their postpartum exercise journey?
first, have some grace with yourself. Wherever you are in whatever stage of motherhood you are in, it is going to be easier to prepare for postpartum during pregnancy. I always say postpartum recovery begins in pregnancy. So if you are listening today and you are pregnant, mama, like this is the time to start thinking about your postpartum recovery. If you are already postpartum and you are carrying that newborn listening to this, it is not too late. And if you are 5 years down the road listening to this right now, it is not too late to begin healing your body. So I have designed all my programs at the Fit Mom Method to give you the ability to go at your own pace with these dynamic workouts that are going to be fun, quick, and effective that you can do from the comfort of your own home. But really, I think what sets my programs aside from some other things that you may get online is that you do get me as your coach. You get a one-on-one consultation with me where we go through where you are maybe on your pregnancy journey, or we go through a full core consultation when you are postpartum so that you never feel alone in this stage of motherhood. You have support, you have guidance, and I'm going to help you find that roadmap that is going to build all the confidence you need so that you can thrive in motherhood.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking time to share all of your knowledge and talk to us just about going through this stage in life, because it's not something that is easy, and it's something that you definitely don't learn until you are in it, at least for me.
Well, I appreciate so much being on here today, sharing what I can to your listeners. And for those that are listening, I just want to give you a little promo code that if you are interested in any of my programs, use the code MAMA, MAMA 20 for 20% off any of my programs, including my Revive postpartum program. I also have a little freebie that I'll have linked here for you guys that has an early postpartum stretching vault. So you'll want to download that because it's going to go through some of my favorite mobility and stretches that you can do early on postpartum.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next week for our next episode. You can find us on Instagram for more updates and tips. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts and give us a review if you like us.